Started, and I will call this meeting to order. As chair of the Timberland Regional School Board, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12 pursuant to executive order 2020-04, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, I'm confirming that we are utilizing Zoom for this electronic meeting. All members of the board have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during this meeting through this platform, and the public has access to contemporaneously listen. We previously gave notice to the public of the necessary information for accessing the meeting, including how to access the meeting using Zoom or telephonically. Instructions have also been provided on the website of the board at timberlane.net/zoomTRSB. If anybody has a problem, please call 382-6541, extension 3955. Please note that all votes that are taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. Let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. When each member states their presence, please also state whether there's anyone in the room with you during this meeting, which is required under the right to know law. Kat, could you take the roll call vote, please?
Kelly Bowes.
Present, and there's no one else home with me.
Brian Boyle.
I am here. I'm alone in the room, and there's other family members in the household.
Kim Farah.
I'm here. I'm alone in the household.
Stephen Finnegan.
I am present. I am alone in the room, and there are other members in the household.
Amy Gentile. Amy, you're muted.
Oh, of course it's me. I am here. I am present. There are others in the home, but not in the room.
Barbara Kishka.
Present and alone in the residence.
Sheila Lowe's.
Here and alone in the house.
Sean O'Neill.
Here, there are other people in the household.
Kristen Savage. Kristen, you're muted.
Kristen?
I'm sorry, I'm here. I don't know if my internet's really unstable tonight or not because everyone sounds very funky, but I am here. I am currently alone in the house, but my children will be coming home soon and be throughout the house.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'm going to turn over the meeting to Dr. Cochran for the election of the chair.
Thank you. And at this point in time, I would like to call for any nominations for the position of chair of the Timberlane Regional School Board.
I would nominate, oh, go ahead, Brian.
Barbara?
I nominate Dr. Kim Farah for chair.
A second.
Do we have any other nominations for the position of chair? I'll repeat just in case you didn't hear me. Do we have any other nominations for the position of chair? I'm not sure if we actually have to proceed with a vote.
You probably should.
Just, yeah.
Yes, you have to.
Have to do roll call.
All right, roll call vote, please.
Ms. Bowes.
Yes.
Mr. Boyle.
Yes.
Dr. Farah.
Abstain.
Mr. Finnegan.
Yes.
Mrs. Gentile.
Yes.
Mrs. Kishka.
Yes.
Ms. Lowe's.
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill.
Yes.
Mrs. Savage.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Congratulations, Kim.
Thank you. Thank you all for your support. I look forward to another year of working with everybody, and hopefully we will move forward and accomplish a lot in the next year. So I appreciate that. Okay, so I will take the meeting back over and we'll move on to vice chair. Are there any nominations for vice chair?
I'd like to nominate Kristen Savage to be vice chair.
Second.
Any other nominations for chair? Vice chair, I mean? Any other nominations? Okay, Kat, could you take a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Bose,
Yes.
Mr. Boyle,
Yes.
Dr. Farah,
Yes.
Mr. Finnegan,
Yes.
Ms. Gentile,
Yes.
Mrs. Kishka,
Yes.
Ms. Lowe's,
Why ruin a good thing? Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mrs. Savage.
I'll abstain.
It's a good thing.
Okay, congratulations, Kristen
Thank you.
Savage.
Thank you, Dr.
Good
Farah.
job,
Thank you. Thank you, Brian and Sheila. I think that's a thank you. Thank you, everybody
No,
else.
no, no, it actually was. I'm saying we're not gonna ruin a good thing. That's what I was meant by that. No, no, no.
And I apologize at first, but I don't know what's going on with my internet. It's actually quite wanky tonight. So if I'm in and out, I apologize.
No, I believe me when I tell you, Kristen, it's a very good thing. I
Thank
think
you.
this is great. We're not gonna rock the boat. This is good.
Thank you, Sheila.
Okay, moving on. Next nomination we need to seek or reappointment is I'll be looking for a motion to reappoint Sharon Boyle as the school district clerk.
I'll make the motion to reappoint Sharon Boyle as the school district clerk.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Kat, could you take a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Bose,
Yes.
Mr. Boyle,
Abstain.
Dr. Farah,
Yes.
Mr. Finnegan,
Yes.
Ms. Gentile,
Yes.
Mrs. Kishka,
Yes.
Ms. Lowe's,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mrs. Savage.
Okay.
Did I get called?
No, you did get called, Kristen.
You did, and we can hear you.
I can't hear anything, so.
Okay,
Yes.
We're just
thumbs
gonna
up.
ignore you for the rest of the evening. Right, moving on to
That works.
moving on to treasurer. No, I'm sorry. I'd like to seek reappointment of Kat Lancaster has agreed to serve as the school board recording secretary. If I could have a motion for that, please.
So
Moved.
Second.
Sheila makes the motion. Barbara got the second on that one. If you could take a roll call, please.
Ms. Bose,
Yes.
Mr. Boyle,
Yes, no, but wait a minute. Are you a Ms.? How are we going to call you?
I'm a Ms. Miss, Dr. Farah,
Yes.
Mr. Finnegan,
Yes.
Ms. Gentile,
Yes.
Mrs. Kishka,
Yes.
Ms. Lowe's,
Yes, and thank you to you, Kat and Sharon, for doing it one more year. Thank you very much.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes. Thank
Mrs.
you, Kat.
Savage, Mrs. Savage,
Forget it. She's muted. Moving on. I'm looking to seek reappointment. I think I'm going to do this in one motion. Seeking to reappoint Kathleen Beatty as the treasurer and Gloria Dodge as the assistant treasurer for the next year. So I'm going to seek a motion to reappoint both those, and I appreciate them stepping up again.
So
So
made.
moved. Go ahead.
Okay, Brian gets the first and Sean gets the second. Kat, can you take a roll call, please?
Ms. Bose,
Yes.
Mr. Boyle,
Yes.
Dr. Farah,
Yes.
Mr. Finnegan,
Yes.
Ms. Gentile,
Yes.
Mrs. Kishka,
Yes.
Ms. Lowe's,
Yes, and thank you to both for stepping up again.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mrs. Savage,
Is she gone?
She's gone. She's,
Oh, she's totally gone now. Okay.
She's reconnecting.
okay.
Okay, thanks. All right, so just count that as an 8-0 then.
Yep. did for the last one as well.
Okay, thank you. The next thing is school council. Actually, I would like to defer on that till the next meeting before we appoint council. We'll continue with current council. If there's no objection,
No objection here.
okay, let's move on then. I would seek recommendation to bond the treasurer and the assistant treasurer as required by statute.
So made.
Second.
Sean gets the first, Barbara gets the second. You could take a roll call on that, please.
Ms. Bose,
I'm going to abstain just because I don't know enough information about this.
Nope, smart.
Okay.
Mr. Boyle,
Yes.
Dr. Farah,
Yes,
Mr. Finnegan,
Yes.
Ms. Gentile,
Yes.
Mrs. Kishka,
Yes.
Ms. Lowe's,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mrs. Savage,
Still trying.
okay. Moving on to the bank depository, I'm seeking a motion to appoint TD Bank as the district bank.
So made.
Second.
Sean has the motion, Sheila has a second. Roll call, please.
Ms. Bose,
Yes.
Mr. Boyle,
Yes.
Dr. Farah,
Yes,
Mr. Finnegan,
Yes.
Ms. Gentile,
Yes.
Mrs. Kishka,
Yes.
Ms. Lowe's,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mrs. Savage,
on. Okay, moving on. The next item on the reorganization is policy DFA, which regards investments. We don't need to take a vote on this, but board members should have reviewed this as it's required on an annual basis that we review this for the audit. Are there any questions or comments on that? There's no proposed changes to that. Okay, moving on. Next item on the agenda is policy EI, which speaks to risk management. And we need to review this, which this will be considered our review and adopt it for the upcoming year. There are no changes proposed. So I'm seeking for a motion to adopt policy EI, risk management.
So made.
Second.
Sean makes a motion, Barbara seconds. If you could take a roll call, please.
Ms. Bose,
Yes.
Mr. Boyle,
Yes.
Dr. Farah,
Yes,
Mr. Finnegan,
Yes.
Ms. Gentile,
Yes.
Mrs. Kishka,
Yes.
Ms. Lowe's,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mrs. Savage,
Yes.
thank you. So that is adopted. The next item on the reorg agenda is the school board ethics statement. Board has a policy BCA, which speaks to board member ethics. Typically, board members will review this policy and sign it and send it back. Normally, we're in person, so we just have it at our tables and we sign it and send it back. Kat, could you take an action item and ask Mrs. Belcher to email this out to everybody so that it could be signed electronically and sent back?
yes, ma'am.
Thank you. The last item on the agenda speaks to the authorization of the Personnel Committee to approve MOUs. This was added to the reorg agenda. For those new members that might not be familiar with this, sometimes we have collective bargaining agreements right now with actually 5 different unions. From time to time, we might need to make a change to something within that agreement. There's a board committee that's a subcommittee of the board, the Personnel Committee, that has 3 members. And this gives them the authority to work with the unions or whoever it is to develop a memorandum of understanding that, you know, Dr. Cochran, you can correct me a little bit if I'm wrong. You know, if there's going to be some adjustment that's made to a previously negotiated collective bargaining agreement, like there were some that had to do with the COVID situation. So this is just looking to give the personnel authorization to do this as opposed to having to come to the whole board.
Mhm.
Do you need me to make a motion for that or?
Yes, so I'm seeking a motion to authorize the Personnel Committee to approve MOUs. I'm looking for a motion for the Personnel Committee to approve memorandum of understanding with any of the collective bargaining, for any of the collective bargaining agreements.
So
That's it.
moved.
Thank you.
So moved.
Barbara?
Oh, shit, I think Sean got it there first.
Doesn't matter. You, me,
We'll give it to
Arm wrestle.
Barbara. Give it to
That's fine.
Barbara.
I share.
Is there any discussion on that motion?
Has that committee already been decided? Who was on that committee?
All the committees will be redistributed now that we have new membership.
Yeah,
So
you're the
that-
chair, Kelly.
Yeah, we're making you
Moving
the
on.
That's how we work here.
Yeah, the new members get to chair the committees that no one else wants to be on. Now I'll get to that when we get into our regular meeting, but that will be another action item for Mrs. Belcher to send out a list to the board of what the openings are, and then people can respond to me as to what committees they want to be on.
Thank you.
And there's usually not overwhelming. If there are issues or fights on who wants to be on committees, I'll try to distribute it. There's plenty of committee work to be done, so. Okay, so that's that. So wait, we took the motion in the second. We need to make a vote on that, right, Cap?
That is correct.
Go ahead.
Ms. Bose,
Yes.
Mr. Boyle,
Yes.
Dr. Farah,
Yes.
Mr. Finnegan,
Yes.
Ms. Gentile,
Yes.
Mrs. Kishka,
Yes.
Ms. Lowe's,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mrs. Savage.
Yes.
Okay, moving on. There are, the next item is a recommendation to hold school board meetings on the first and third Thursdays of the month, typically at the SAU, to waive the July meeting and the first meeting in August unless needed, and hold the meeting scheduled for the fourth week in August on the 22nd, just before school is in session. And finally, to reserve the right to amend the meeting schedule. So this doesn't require a vote. I think Mrs. Belcher did ask me about meetings, and I think I asked her, and Barbara, I think you know because you looked at the schedule. I think I asked her to post one for July and two for August.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, okay. So this talks about not having one in July, but I think it's important that we have one, especially since we will have just transitioned out of SAU 55. We
Mhm.
can always cancel it, but for board members, right now, there's one, I think the date is
22nd,
22nd, okay?
Oh, wait, August 22nd is a Sunday.
July.
July.
Okay, July, so, okay. I was just looking at the August date that's in the packet, the 22nd. That wouldn't be the 4th. So the August meetings,
Right. It says we're not holding it on the 4th. We're holding it earlier than the 4th because of school, when school starts.
no. In August, what dates are we looking at, Kim?
Aren't they the 5th and the 19th?
I was just gonna say, we're gonna stick with the first and the third weeks as normal in August?
We can stick with the first and the third.
Yes.
Yeah, the first and the third week.
Okay.
Otherwise, you'll need a temporary recording secretary because I have to deliver the kid to West Virginia.
And I have to deliver the kid to Lemoyne, so you need a vice chair too, so.
Yeah, no, I think we can go with the first and third week in August. It's a long time away. We'll figure it out, but we'll hold that for now. Okay, so that is, that's the end of the reorg meeting. We need to adjourn this meeting. And I can't reconvene here till 7:30 because that's the posted time on the call to order of the next meeting.
Okay,
So
All the new members who've survived their first meeting.
congratulations.
Yeah,
That's the
so-
smoothest reorg.
So this reorg meeting is adjourned and you can stay on the line. I guess I can't really have discussion because then I'm part of a meeting.
No. In the future, though, that you can post this meeting, though, the second one is a continuation of the first one, and then you could just go right into it.
Right, yeah. I didn't think about that and it's posted as 7:30, so I don't want to
No,
not do it at
No,
7.
I would.
I've been on Zoom way too long today, people, okay? As chair of the Timberlane Regional School Board, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12 pursuant to executive order 2020-04, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there's no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, I'm confirming that we are utilizing Zoom for this electronic meeting. All members of the board have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during this meeting through this platform, and the public has access to contemporaneously listen. We previously gave notice to the public of the necessary information for accessing the meeting, including how to access the meeting using Zoom or telephonically. Instructions have also been provided on the website of the board at timberlane.net/Zoom TRSB. If anybody has a problem, please call 382-6541 extension 3955. Please note that all votes that are taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. Let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. When each member states their presence, please also state whether there's anyone in the room with you during this meeting, which is required under the right to know law. Kat?
Kelly Bowes,
I'm here and there's no one else in the household.
Brian Boyle,
I am here, I'm alone in the room, and there are other family members in the household.
Kim Farah,
I'm here, I'm alone in the house.
Stephen Finnegan,
I'm here alone in the room. Other members are in the house.
Amy Gentile,
Here, alone in the room, other family members in the house.
Barbara Kishka,
Present, alone in the residence.
Sheila Lowe's,
Here, alone in the house.
Sean O'Neill,
I'm here and I have other people in the household.
Kristen Savage.
I'm here and I still have my kids in the house with me.
Too bad.
I'm saying it's gonna be for long, but they're here right now.
Okay, thank you. I am not seeing the minutes of the
They're in
last.
there.
Are they in there?
Yeah, they're in there.
Oh, there it is, 3/4/21. Okay, moving on. We did the pledge during the reorg, so I'm gonna not recite it again. So looking for a motion to approve the minutes from the March 4th meeting.
I'll
So
make a
moved.
motion. No, second. You go, Barbara.
Barbara makes it, Sheila seconds. Any discussion? Kat, could you take a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Bowes,
I abstain.
Mr. Boyle,
Yes.
Dr. Farah,
Yes.
Mr. Finnegan,
Abstain.
Ms. Gentile,
Abstain.
Mrs. Kishka,
Yes,
Ms. Lowe's,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes,
Mrs. Savage.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Before we move on, now that we've reorged and this is our first meeting, I'd like to welcome board members. Kelly Bowes is a new board member from Plastow. Steve Finnegan from Sandown, and Amy Cantone. Oh, did you go Amy Gentile or
Gentile.
Gentile? Okay, sorry. Amy Gentile from Atkinson. So welcome to the new board members. Typically, new board members are mentored by senior board members or older. I don't know what the proper term is. So
Old.
representatives from those three towns, if you could take it amongst, divvy it up or decide who. Well, Plastow is the only one that has 2 reps, but the Sandown and Atkinson, if you could mentor your new board members, I'd appreciate it. Thank you. There is school board training through the New Hampshire School Board Association that you should receive notification of if you're interested in taking that. That would be at no cost. And there are a lot of webinars available too, so you can learn that way. Okay, and speaking of new, we have a new student representative, Kaylee Sheffield, and I'd like to welcome her. And can you just tell us what town you're from?
I'm from Plastow.
Okay, and do you have a report for us?
I was going to introduce.
Oh, Jenna, I'm sorry.
Hello.
I didn't see you over there. Go ahead, Jenna, you take the lead. I'm gonna shut my mic off. Go ahead.
I'm so happy that Kaylee was elected as our new student body representative. I know that the students really feel a strong connection to Kaylee because of her leadership in student council before now. So before I give it off to her to just tell you a little bit about herself, I wanted to quickly let the board know about a petition that is going around right now that has been signed by around 500 students. And this is regarding the What You Need Wednesdays as they've come to be called, but they are the 8 periods every single Wednesday that give students an opportunity to catch up on all of their makeup work or have conferences with their teachers. And I have a quote here from a student that I think really beautifully put everything into words. The student said, "We're all stressed out with the amount of work we're getting during this pandemic, with many of us dealing with heightened mental health issues. We might not have the best home situations as well. Having What I Need Wednesdays is one of the few things that are making this kind of problem better. Getting rid of them will only heighten the number of late assignments and will do nothing to benefit the students and the teachers." So I just wanted to share that with you. I think that the student was very eloquent in the way that they put that, and I just wanted everyone on the board and the public to be aware of this and to do with that information what you will. So Kaylee, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, so my name's Kaylee. I'm a junior at Timberlane this year. As Nen said, I currently serve on the student council as the public relations officer and tend to take a bigger leadership role in several other organizations at school. I'm super honored to have this opportunity to take over this position, and I'm just really looking forward to working with everyone for the remainder of this year and in the months to come.
Welcome.
Welcome, Kaylee.
Welcome aboard.
Welcome aboard, Caitlin. And I want to give you a little shout out from a former board member and selectman, Greg Spiro. Said congratulations and wish you the best tonight.
And I'd like to congratulate Kaylee, but once again, thank Jenna.
Yes, Jenna.
Yes, well, Jenny, you were awesome. Absolutely. But by the way, you can stick around, Jenna, if you'd like.
No, Kaylee, no offense. I'm sad to see Jenna go as well. I mean, we didn't get our full year with Jenna, but Jenna, I wish you all the best and, you know, good luck in your future. And Kaylee?
Thank you very much.
Lord.
And congrats on graduating early.
Jenna, can I ask you a question on your survey? Were those 2 questions? Were those 500 high school students that you verified? And are they asking for remote on Wednesday, not a quote day off? Is that what you're saying?
I believe that they just want the schedule to remain the same. It doesn't specify whether they want remote or in person. I think that they just want to be able to have the ability to communicate with their teachers and catch up on missing assignments, which is what Wednesdays are now. But the schedule has now changed where they're going back to alternating A and B days. So there will be 4 blocks every day instead of 4 blocks Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and 8 blocks on Wednesday. And I cannot verify that these students are Timberlane Regional High School students, but I do know that I recognize all of the names in the comments and that it is majority students that are signing it. There could have been a parent signing it, but I can't verify that.
Okay, thanks. Thanks for that clarification. I was a little unclear.
It was too.
Okay, let me see, where am I? So the next thing is the school reopening update, but, oh no, I'm sorry, I have delegates and individuals. There are 2 tonight. Why don't we start with Coral Hampy and then Sarah Scanlon would be next. So if we could bring Coral Hampy up.
Good evening. Coral Hampy, Danville TTA President. First, I want to extend a warm welcome to the newest members of the board and to Kaylee as student rep. Thank you for serving your communities. Next, I would like to praise my colleagues in our schools. 1 year ago, we were thrown into a new normal that has only continued to evolve, and teachers have evolved with the times. Despite the negativity against teachers and the incorrect assumptions that we are at home doing nothing or wanted an extended summer vacation, teachers have been working harder than ever. It takes so much time to recreate assignments and assessments to be fully digital. So much thought has to go into planning ahead, like for STEAM projects and science experiments. Middle school teachers have created sets of materials for fully remote students to pick up. Language arts teachers have planned with school and town libraries to offer class read aloud books. But teachers put so much more into teaching than just curriculum. We really try to build relationships with kids. Since last March, we have had a much harder time making personal connections with our students. There are kids who still have not turned on their cameras. Not to be deterred, we strive to find ways to connect with all our students, even if we don't know what they look like. And let's not forget that teachers have personal lives too. We have children who may be in remote learning, partners and parents who we support as they support us, and pets who need love and attention too. I know this message uses the title teacher, but I'm speaking for all members of our school community, from the bus drivers to lunch crews, front office staff to IT departments, custodians, nurses, and admin. So next time you talk to any of us, start with a thank you. We dedicate our lives to educating your children and wouldn't have it any other way. I want to go on the record to say that staff members have worked their butts off this past year. Contrary to the lies, we have engaged the students every day. We don't seek reasons to be out of school. We seek ways to reach our students. The message that was conveyed last week against teachers was untrue, unfair, and delivered rudely. I call for board member Sean O'Neill to apologize to the district staff for his comments. I also call on the rest of the board for an apology for failure to condemn a member for inappropriate comments. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Hampi.
Sarah Scanlon?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, all right, good evening, everyone. My name is Sarah Scanlon, and I'm a Timberlane parent of a high school and middle school student. This is not my first time addressing the school board on the topic of FLES, which is the foreign language in elementary schools. However, it will be my first time speaking with the newly elected members of the school board. I'd like to urge the school board to reconsider their previous vote to cut this innovative and forward-thinking program from our school curriculum. The benefits of this program are innumerable for our kids' futures in today's global world. This program has only just started to show the overall benefits with our current sixth graders and has support from over 300 parents in the school district who supported my petition to keep the program. I do not believe all the parents with students in FLES, even though that this cut has been enacted. This program did not need to be cut by the school board, as the same reduction in the budget was found through other line items without cutting this program by the budget committee. So the budget committee found the same funds without having to cut this program. I believe this decision was not made due to a lack of support for the program or a lack of funding. There has not been a presentation to the school board by the curriculum committee or language specialists in this program to analyze and assess the program. There has not been a survey of the students or parents, and due to COVID, there has not been a relevant testing that would show how our students are performing. The last time they were tested was in the 4th grade, and they're now 6th graders. I feel that this vote needs to be reconsidered because all the pertinent information has not been presented and discussed by the board. I realise that reconsideration of the vote and discussion will not happen tonight because you do not have all the relevant information. However, this discussion needs to happen very soon because our FLES teachers are in limbo for the 21-22 school year, as at this point we're in danger of losing enthusiastic, passionate language teachers. I would appreciate the courtesy of a formal response and discussion on this program because this is of importance to many parents, future students and staff on many levels. If there is no plan to keep the program, will there be a transition period for those students currently in the program? Some are 4 or 5 years into the FLES program. And what will happen to the approved funding in the 21-22 budget and how will it be reallocated? Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to I'm going to flip the agenda a little bit because we have Mark Fournier here. And so I would like to go into the HVAC update first. Board members, in your packets, and Mrs. Belcher has kindly labeled things in the agenda packets now. You'll see 7B, 7B, 7B on this agenda item. So there are 3. The first thing in here is the air exchange report, which you would have received earlier, and obviously we won't have discussion on that. It's a very lengthy report. Also in here are 2 responses to the request for proposal. As you know, at our last meeting, we requested that the business office go out with requests for proposals for work on an hourly basis on our HVAC systems based on the train report. So we have 2 RFQs here. And in the meantime, in the last 2 weeks, I know there's been substantial work done. So I'll let Mark Fournier speak to that in a minute. So the board tonight will need to, we should have evaluated these 2 proposals. And I'm going to be looking for a motion that we accept and move forward with one of these. So as I said, one's from Train and the other is from Control Technologies. So we can open it up for discussion as to what board members, which way board members want to go. But ultimately, I need a motion to accept the proposal, to accept one of these proposals for these requests for proposals.
You want the motion first or the discussion first?
Go ahead and make a motion and then we'll discuss it. It might be easier to base it off a motion.
Okay, I motion that we accept the Train RFQ for the HVAC.
Second for discussion.
Sheila seconds for discussion. Let's open the floor for discussion. Barbara, I'll let you.
So my reading of the 2 responses was that Train is charging more per hour, but less for the markup on the supplies on the materials, and vice versa for Control. Train's been doing a good job. I was hoping to hear from facilities because it seems that both Train and Control Technology have been working in our buildings on this project. So I would like to hear if there's any preference there from our facilities folks.
Has Control Technologies, Mr. Paradis, has Control Technologies been working on our equipment?
They have, thank you, Kim. They have the maintenance contract, or the PM, preventive maintenance contract. Every month they come in and make sure the dampers and whatnot, the controls are working. They're very, very familiar with our units. That's why I sat with Mark Fournier and the HVAC technician today, our in-house, and the 3 of us agreed, we agreed Control Technologies probably has more working knowledge of our systems, but yes, they do charge 30% markup, but I'd ask Mark, maybe he could reach out to Control Technologies today and see if they could drop that to 15 to match Train, but I don't know the result of that. But either way that we go, we just need to get this work done.
I thought we did our own preventative maintenance. This is the first I've heard that we have somebody come in.
Yeah, so every month they come in, they log into our building management system. It's more of the maintenance on the building management system that it is on the units themselves. So if they say they go into the management system and they manually, or a computer, they open a damper and they say, okay, it didn't open full, they'll go up on the roof and they'll investigate, find out why, and then we'll take care of it from there. So we do have a contract with them to come in and test the units. I don't know if I think it's quarterly. It's quarterly.
So, but they're not coming in to test the units. Aren't they coming in to test the building management system?
Which is the units, the free stats. They turn on and off the units. They also control the dampers, make sure the schedules are correct, things like that. That's their preventive maintenance when they come in. Make sure that all the units are functioning the way that it's designed to function.
Okay, Dr. Cochran, then Barbara.
Just trying to see if I understand this correctly, Gary. So Control Technologies does the remote electronic control portion and monitors and does quarterly checks on that. But that's not the actual units themselves. Is that correct or not?
That is correct. So for instance, if they're showing that a damper doesn't open, if they instruct it to open 100% and they show that it's only opening 10%, they'll actually physically go up on the roof and see if something's lodged in it or if there's a control rod broken or something like that. And then they'll notify us, or usually Kevin's on site with them, and then we repair it from there.
So they're not working on the systems.
They're not physically going out and working on the systems, no. but they have the working knowledge of all these systems. Yeah.
Does Control Technologies manufacture this equipment?
Not that I'm aware of. No,
Does Train manufacture equipment?
they do.
So
They
my
may-
understanding, because I met with Train people this morning to review this air quality report with Mark Fournier and the superintendent, my understanding is that if we went with Control Technologies, they would be purchasing their equipment from Train, and then they would be then marking it up and selling it to us. Is that not correct? They don't have their own equipment, do they, that they sell?
They don't have their own equipment, no, but I'm not sure that Train manufactures bearings and belts and things that are needed. They manufacture entire equipment, like a rooftop unit or an air handler or things like that. I'm not sure they manufacture, and I can't speak to that because I don't know if they manufacture bearings or, fans or things like that.
Wouldn't they have the parts to service their own equipment?
We
So-
have some, Sean, we do have some Train equipment, but we also have York equipment, Desk Champs, Carrier. We have all kinds of equipment in the district.
Barbara?
So of the equipment that Control Technologies is doing preventative maintenance on, how many of those units were called out in the HVAC report as needing maintenance?
I'm sorry, Barbara, my thing broke up a little. What did you say?
All right, so Control Technologies does the preventive maintenance on things. And we had that report that said, there were belts that were missing or there were maintenance needing being done. Are any of the units that Control Technologies responsible for, were they on that list as needing additional work?
So according to the Train report, it seems as though every unit in the district needed a belt or a bearing, which is not what we're finding. We've already gone through Danville and we're almost completed with Pollard. And we're not finding that these units need that type of, the belts you'll see on a report that you'll be getting soon for the two buildings once we're complete, what work we did actually do and what wasn't needed.
So we've got some discrepancies between the two companies.
We do.
But Barbara, I understand your question, but the building management system, maybe I can use an analogy, Mark, or somebody correct me if I'm wrong, would be like your circuit box in your breaker box in your basement. You'd come in and see if a breaker is tripped, and then and that's your building management system. But to find out what's going on, why your refrigerator isn't working, that's a different person. So Control Technologies is looking at the breaker box. They're not really servicing the refrigerator, right, Mark? Would that be a good analogy?
Yeah, basically, yes, that's a close one, Kim. Basically, Control Technologies is a control firm. They're not an HVAC company per se. They're not a manufacturer of that kind of equipment, and they don't sell that equipment. Train, I believe we're finding that the majority of Train's findings in the report are true, and we're finding, maybe a belt here or there that we don't think needs to be replaced, but the majority of the maintenance and repairs they cited in the report are needed, and that's what we've been, working on for the past 2-3 weeks now. Kevin, as Gary said, Kevin's gone through Danville and also through most of Pollard. Hopefully we'll finish that tomorrow. But, the CTI is a different kind of company. So it is, it's basically, it's kind of apples and oranges. They do have their HVAC techs that'll work on the equipment, but that's not what their contract's meant to do. Obviously, if it was, then we wouldn't have a lot of these maintenance or repair issues that we're looking at now. You would hope, right?
Okay, Sheila, then Brian, sorry, I keep missing.
Actually, I'm gonna let Brian go first. He's been trying to get in.
Yeah, I keep missing. Hold
That's
your
all
hand
right.
up higher, Brian. Hold it higher.
Okay. Well, a lot of good conversations here so far on this, but it looks to me like Train is the logical choice. We just heard from Gary and Mark that either one of these guys can do it, but I think we're better off sticking with Train, especially in this day and age of getting your hands on certain things, certain supplies. They are an actual vendor of a lot of the products we're going to need, and seeing how it looks like it's a toss up from Gary. He's comfortable with both these vendors, but when I look at everything on the table, I don't think the board should get involved in a big debate on which way to go, because I think we have two good vendors here, and it looks to me like I just give the nod to Train, and let's get this thing get it on the show, get going on it.
Kelly?
Just so I'm clear, does anybody in the facility staff have a strong feeling towards control? I haven't heard one yet. I just want to make sure I'm hearing everything.
So I can speak to that. I'm not gonna sway either way. And
Okay.
as Brian just said it best, both companies, this is their field, and basically, in my opinion, I can work with either of them, so it really doesn't matter to me.
Okay, go ahead, Barbara.
So the deal is, what do we think we're going to spend more money on, the markup on equipment or the hours? Because that's where the cost difference is.
Well, and here, let me just give you.
You can't quantify that, I don't think.
Well, you can't, but let me give you a little bit of what I learned today. And this is a little 5-minute lesson on HVAC, I guess. The CDC, when COVID started, and ASHRAE, which is the organization, I don't know, we can't remember what it stands for. It's an engineering organization that looks at heating and ventilation. Before COVID, the standard was 2 exchanges per hour in these rooms. And since COVID, it's up to 3 exchanges an hour. So when you look at this air quality report, which will become public at some point, is public, you'll see that probably almost every single room is hitting that 2 exchanges an hour, and most rooms are hitting 3 and above. So, and some substantially. What was pointed out today was that 20 years ago, when fuel prices were close to $4 a gallon, HVAC systems, when they tried to design them so that they didn't pull in external air, because you're pulling in a lot of cold air, and it costs a lot of money to heat up that stuff that you're putting in. So systems that we might have put in 15, 20 years ago had a different mindset than a system that we might replace it with. And some of these systems, because the standard was 2 exchanges an hour, and they're older systems, we may find that we go into, say, Pollard, for instance, and there may be an area where we can't bring that system. You can't force the system to exchange any more air, and we're probably going to need to replace that unit for that particular area in order to get up to what we need. And we've been holding money in the capital budget for just that reason, so we can have some money there so that when we need to replace one, we can do that. So the thought is that our in-house HVAC people are going to continue to work on this Train report, and that we're going to bring this, whoever gets this RFP in, to hit the other areas now that we know which areas have low room exchange, to figure out what the best and quickest way to do that is. So that was my lesson for the day. Steve?
Very nice.
Thank you. That's great education, actually. So just really quickly, has there been conversation, if we did go with control, of any cost savings because they are doing our preventative maintenance? Is, to me, if both vendors are sort of equal in what they're providing, a potential cost savings because they're providing preventative maintenance would be, helpful to know.
Normally we don't, and Dr. Cochran, maybe you can, or maybe one of our business people on, normally, because this is a public organization, we don't go back and forth once those RFPs have been open, right? Jeff, do you want to?
Absolutely correct.
We can't really do that, can we?
Not really, no. And I was going to correct Mr. Gary on that typically the bids as they come in are the bids as they come in. So that's that.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Cochran? Dr. Cochran?
In terms of, I sat in along with Mr. Fournier on the same meeting with Train today. And my understanding was that Train basically has access to the entire piece. They were the ones who did a lot of the work, familiarity with the buildings. And the Control Technologies as a company, as an entity, is doing maintenance not so much on the units replacing belt, but on the control piece itself, as Dr. Farah pointed out. So the group that's been in the buildings doing the work has, in terms of the mechanical aspect of belts, of bearings, of those sorts of things, has been trained. There is a slight cost advantage one way or the other, depending on the amount of materials that we're going to have to purchase, as has been pointed out. So I'm not sure we can use that as a significant portion of making our decision, because we don't know which way that cost will break. But in terms of familiarity, my conversations with Mr. Fournier have indicated that the train work has been done on time. It's been well done. They have been helpful. They've done the work that we've asked them to do, and you know, this is what they do as a corporation, and they do it nationally, and they do it very well.
Mark, then Sheila.
Yeah, and what we saw today also, you know, in addition to them having a strong knowledge of our systems, because they've gone through every unit now, they have a really good, strong, multidisciplinary team that we spoke with today. So, you know, they know the equipment, they know the repair side of the house, and they also know, you know, what's coming for new technology, and they also know, you know, the old ASHRAE standards and what the equipment used to do versus what it should do today. And they were really good about explaining that to us. You know, like the new technology we may have to look at. The nice thing about that is we'll be able to throttle it up and throttle it down much more than we can with the old equipment. So if we need to meet different standards in the future, the newer technology will be much more efficient around that. So that's really what I wanted to say about them. They have a good feel for what we need, and you know, if you have any more questions about that, I'll be happy to answer them. But they have a strong team. We really been really satisfied with their work to date.
Kim, can I ask a question?
Sure, go ahead, Gary.
You know, I'm hearing a lot of talk about you guys meeting with Train today. I got two questions for that. One, are we going to meet with Control Technologies and talk to them the same we did with Train? And two, I would like to be involved in these conversations, because I am going to be involved in all these scheduling and access to the buildings and things like that. I didn't know you guys met with Train until afterwards. So I may have questions for them that I would also like to ask.
The meeting with Train was to discuss the IAQ air exchange report, not to discuss the RFQs.
Okay.
And I can't speak to who gets, I'm sorry, somebody else would have to speak to the meeting. I was just invited to the meeting.
Well, still, if we're talking about the, you know.
I agree. I agree.
Okay. Okay.
I agree.
Thank you.
I agree. I will talk to Dr. Cochran about that. Sheila, and then I'd like to call the question and move on.
Oh, that's what I was gonna end with that. In regards to the air report we got today, I have to say that I was, believe it or not, pleasantly surprised because of all that we've been hearing about air exchanges and how terrible it is. And looking at this second report now, I was pleasantly surprised. You know, there are some issues. I will definitely admit there are some issues in different schools. But for the overall I was surprised it wasn't a whole lot worse because of what we have heard. So I think we should go with train. I think they know what's going on with these systems. I think, you know, and we need this done now. I wanna move on with this. So I'm gonna ask that you call the question.
Okay, so the motion on the floor is that we accept the RFQ from Train Corporation or company, whatever they're called. Kat, could you take a roll call on that, please?
Ms. Bose,
Yes.
Mr. Boyle,
Yes.
Dr. Farah,
Yes.
Mr. Finnegan,
Yes.
Ms. Gentile,
Yes.
Mrs. Kishka,
Yes.
Ms. Lowe's,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mrs. Savage.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Are there any more questions for Mr. Fournier before he departs for the evening? Barbara?
Well, since we're getting the education in HVAC, if he could tell us by email, not necessarily here, what it means when there's a zero in the measured in the return exhaust air and the supply air, just to help us understand a couple of outliers.
Yep, great question. So I can give you a quick answer to that. Being an old facility person, I know about history, and Brian Boyle probably chirp in on this too. When you have a large building, commercial building especially, and somebody needs a new office, right? Say you got a new teacher, a new staff member, somebody needs a new office. Well, there's a lot of pressure to make a new office. So you take a large room and you make it a smaller room, right? So somebody throws up a wall. Well, they don't always think about the HVAC issue. So they might put a wall up across the middle of a room, and it might cut off either the supply vent or the exhaust vent or both. So you end up with a room that either has supply or your return or nothing. And that's what we need to go back and look at now. They weren't, Train wasn't charged to figure that out. They were just charged to do, air exchange testing. So I was actually talking to Gary and Kevin about this earlier, that we need to go back now. We or whoever we bring in to help us needs to go back and figure out, okay, why doesn't this room have an exhaust, right? An exhaust vent, and what does that mean? One of the things Gary pointed out today which was related to what I just told you, is a lot of times when they did that, if the supply or return was in the way, it's usually in a suspended ceiling. They would literally take that vent out and pop it up above the ceiling and put a ceiling tile in. Or if somebody was too cold, they would do the same thing. So sorry to say that, but that's what happens in facilities. It's everywhere. It's not only here. Where I used to work, it would happen. People would call us up and say, hey, I can't breathe in my, it's too hot or too cold. And we'd go in and we'd look. Kim knows, she's laughing. We'd go in because they built all these new offices, and there's literally no HVAC equipment, connected to those rooms. So that's the quick answer on what happens.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Kim?
Brian, go ahead.
I was just, you brought this up earlier, but I want to piggyback on what Sheila said, that, and for those at home watching, overall, I thought that airflow report was pretty good. It wasn't like, it's showing that we're in really tough shape. And I just didn't know, obviously it's now a public record. So if there was any thoughts of making that accessible, because it gives you numbers, gives you by school, by classroom, number of air exchanges per hour. As you already pointed out, Kim, that it was before COVID-19, the acceptable in the world was 2 exchanges per hour. Now it's 3. We have rooms in our district that it's 15 or more. So I didn't know if that made sense to make it available. So it's good.
Yes, yeah, I think that's fine, Brian. Kat, could you, I don't think we need to post it like on the district webpage, but can we make sure that, Kat, can you ask Mrs. Belcher or Dr. Cochran to post that somewhere where it's available? Dr. Cochran?
that. I just wondered, Mr. California could also speak to the issue of when and when it would not be appropriate to crack windows, because that's one of the things that CDC has kind of sort of reversed themselves on.
Dr. Cochran, I thought that you were going to put out some written guidance on that.
Well, I'd rather hear it from the expert. I can put it out in an email tomorrow, but Mark would explain it. I'm sure he could do a better job than me.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, CDC's flipped back and forth on this, and now what they've said is where you need extra air, it's totally okay to open the windows. And I'll say that with a caveat. I understand why they're saying that. They want to get more fresh air in the building, right? And what they're thinking, so one of the issues when you do that is instead of bringing air in through the HVAC system through a filtered system and filtering out some of the large particles like pollen and dirt, which probably not going to get a lot of anyway from the windows, you may get some of that blowing in during different seasons in the open windows. And that's one thing to be concerned about, you know, if it's a high pollen season, for instance, right? But if it's not, and we crack the windows open, that's okay. Now, according to the CDC, it does a couple of different things. It'll unbalance the system, which isn't a really big deal right now if we need that fresh air. And the other thing that it'll do, depending upon what the outside temperature is, it'll increase our heating load, right? So if we get the windows open and it's colder and we're trying to bring in fresh air, our heating load will be higher in those spaces. If there's a particular area where we were really concerned about not having enough air and we wanted to crack the windows, say the numbers were really low, then that's probably a good thing to do. If the numbers are borderline, I don't think I'd be opening the windows because as Brian Boyle said, you know, a lot of our numbers are really close to the threes also. You know, you're running like 2.9, 2.8, you know, close to 3. We're good. You know, we're actually in really good shape in those rooms. Better than we thought in a lot of cases. So.
That was what my point was, Mark, when I mentioned it, because, you know, hearing all the dire straits that we thought we were in, and now we get this, you know, and don't get me wrong, we still have rooms that do have problems, and I expect that we will be hearing back from Train or our facilities department on what we're going to do about those rooms, areas in certain schools to get that airflow up again, higher. But, you know, I was pleasantly surprised. But I don't think, and I agree with Brian, I think this should be public information, and I don't think anybody should have to go to the SAU to ask for a right to know to get it, because I'm all set with right to knows.
And just so you know, that, you know, our targeted areas are going to be, you know, between our in-house staff and the contractor will be those areas. The areas we'll hit first will be prioritized, and will be the areas with the lower, with the lower air exchange rates. So
thank you.
And just a reminder to please also target Pollard sooner because they have the less distance.
Yep.
Well, they're already working on Pollard now.
Pollard's almost done. Barbara, should be done tomorrow.
Excellent, thank you.
Yep. And the other thing we've agreed to do also is, Gary and I were talking about this today also, is to bring the air exchange testing folks back into those spaces once we've done the maintenance or repairs, to see what the numbers look like after the maintenance or repairs.
Perfect, Mark. I was going to ask you if you were going to do that. Perfect. Yep. Because I suspect and I'm hoping that once we get all this done, that those air exchanges will be going up. If not, if that's at the point where we're going to have to figure out if we need to bring in more systems or whatever. But, you know, I just want the public to know that this is a priority for the board. It's a high priority for the board. It's been a high priority for the board since the beginning of this year. Since COVID hit, it's been a high priority for this board. So the faster we can make everybody comfortable, students, teachers, administrators, etc., the better.
Right. And that's the other good The other good thing about having Train now that you've approved that is, so say we have an area, we do the repairs and maintenance, we retest and there's still an issue. They're the experts on that kind of equipment, and they'll be able
Correct.
to give us some guidance on, what to replace, what to spec, how to bid it, those kinds of things. So
Perfect.
that's what we're happy, that'll be good.
Perfect. Thank you.
Welcome.
Great. All right, let's move on or move backwards. School reopening update. I don't know if there's I don't see any presentation on this. Did somebody want to, bye Mark, chime in on this? Dr. Cochran or
Thank you.
Sandy? Sandy's unmuted.
Defer to Dr. Cochran, but I'm happy to chime in if you'd like me to.
No, I don't know if there's anything that you.
No, we don't have anything in writing. Just the update is that as planned, next Monday, the 22nd, marks the start of trimester 3 for our middle and elementary schools. And as planned, we are bringing all students in the district model back in 5 days a week at all grade levels, including the middle school, which is still in the hybrid cohort model. So that's in general the update. There have been some bumps this week with the high school going remote, but other than that, we are on track to return to our original plan and looking forward to it.
Okay, thank you. Barbara?
So you don't need to respond right now because it's kind of a little bit of an ambush, but have you seen the survey or petition that Jenna was speaking of earlier about the whatever you need Wednesdays?
I have not personally, so I have not seen that myself, so I can't speak to that.
Okay, but you'll take a look and
Of course, yes, absolutely, but it has not yet made its way to me, is all I'm sort of saying.
Andy, just to let you know, it's one of the change.org type petitions.
Okay.
But it doesn't have much information to it that I can see. So as far as the direction that they're looking for, it's hard to tell by that petition. So maybe that's something, that Kaylee can try to find out for us is what exactly, or, well, I guess before our next board meeting, you would probably find out, but.
No, absolutely. And just in general, our administrators have an open door policy and are happy to meet with our student representatives at any time to have these discussions. So I would just encourage Kaylee as our new rep, welcome. Please reach out on behalf of the students who organized this petition. And we'll look forward to talking with you about what this is about and what the intent is, and work together to find a common solution.
Kaylee, if I may I just ask a question?
Go ahead.
Kaylee, do you know if there's any middle school students on that? And the reason I ask is just because the middle school and the high school schedule are linked through, through staffing, through facilities. So, just something to consider as we look at that proposal and we look at that, if there was just middle school voices on that survey as well. Something to consider.
Yeah, so unfortunately with the website that students use to create this petition, there's no way to confirm whether the students were high school students or even if they live in the district, which is kind of the problem that I saw with this. I'd be happy to send it to anyone that would like to take a look at it because I do have access to it. But I definitely think that meeting with administration would probably be the best route to take with that, and possibly petitioning with students, and having a way to confirm that they are in fact high school students, and figuring out whether kids wanted these to stay remote, and whether or not the middle schools wanted that as well.
That's what I was going to suggest, Kaylee, too, is talking to the administration and figuring out, what are kids looking for, in person or not in person, things of that nature, and doing. I know you've done a lot of Google Classroom type surveys that have come out for different things to then bring to the administration. So maybe speak to the administration first, try to figure out options, and then everyone's shifting around on me, and then put out a survey to see, what you get for feedback. So, because you'd hate to go down a path with administration and then everyone say that's not really what we wanted, so.
Okay, thank you. let's see, moving on. The next item is a vaccine update, and it looks like Timberlane is scheduled for Friday, March 26th for all, is this all your staff? Somebody can speak to this, and look, it's an action item, so tell me what action you need from the board, please.
Sure. So there is a closed pod that has been secured for Timberlane employees that wish to get vaccinated. I worked with the state and Denise Horax from Plastow to secure a closed pod for all employees on the 26th. So the action item would be that because of the scheduling of that for employees to get the vaccine to be monitored, it's usually around 15 minutes for adverse reactions. If there is any adverse reactions, just the logistics of getting everyone vaccinated, bus drivers, CAF workers, custodians, administrators, teachers, paras, everyone that wants it, it would have a huge impact on the day. So what the administration would be looking for is for the board to say that, that would be sort of a day off for the students, and that teachers weren't expected to also be working with students that day. Students wouldn't be on campus. The expectation wouldn't be for teachers to be working with students, so we could focus time, energy, and resources on getting all those people who wanted to get vaccinated.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Finnegan and then Sheila.
Thank you. So just a really quick question. Do we know what type of vaccine they're getting? And the reason why I ask is because obviously if it's a Pfizer or Moderna, you're potentially planning for 3 to 4 weeks later for the same exact process. So
it's
just
two dates.
I'm
There's
sorry?
2 dates, Steve. There's 2 dates in the packet. If you look at the packet, there's 2 dates.
Okay.
One is the 26th and there's April 23rd, I believe.
Correct. So
is the other date, which is the Friday before April vacation, would be the second date set up.
From what the state is telling me is they cannot guarantee us what vaccine is coming the day of or day prior. They actually have to sort of order it. I have to count the numbers tonight and get them a number tonight. But anyway, so what they're thinking is it's going to be either the Moderna or the Pfizer, which is a 2-day. So we've tentatively, well, not tentatively, we've put on their calendar April 23rd. So we'd be looking to do the same thing on the 23rd. In the conference call that I had with them yesterday, they said, if Johnson & Johnson is the one that shows up on the 26th, then that's great. It's the single dose, and we sort of just have to do it once. But we are putting everything in play for having the second vaccine for the 23rd, which works out with the timeline, April 23rd, which works out for the timeline for that second dose, whether it's Moderna or Pfizer.
Thank you.
Hey, Sheila.
Okay, first, thank you so much for doing this. Thank you. We all know I mentioned it at the last meeting that I had read something about closed pods and I was hoping we could get something together for Timberlane. I think the dates are pretty good, actually. The 26th, you're giving people a weekend for their first shot and then April vacation for their second if needed. I was pretty happy with this whole thing. So actually, I'd like to make a motion to accept and approve the updated calendar for the 2021 year, which will include a day off / snow day. Am I correct in this, or are we just saying a day?
Actually, Sheila, wait, can you wait before you make your motion? Because Dr. Cochran has been wanting to say something and that may impact the motion.
Okay.
Generally, we coordinate with and meet with the TTA and TSSU representatives on calendar when it's originally approved. And there's a couple of different ways that we can go with this. One would be to use the district calendar by hours, in which case last year I believe we were able to go take away 8 days. Another would be to make it just a work day and give teachers some flexibility. I think it would be appropriate to have a conversation with them first. I don't think it'll change the timelines, but I think their input would be important.
Okay, so this is going to happen though before our next board meeting. So
correct.
What,
So-
our action item then, our motion is to give the students March 26th off. Is that the motion I'm looking for, Mr. Pedersen? I don't really need to, I don't really need to, you can work with TTA, Dr. Cochran, right?
Yes.
Just looking for the board to approve that students will not be in attendance on the 26th, right?
That is what I'm looking for, because that's going to make logistics and the ability for our teachers to get the vaccine that much easier. So,
All right.
Just make this a virtual snow day.
You don't want to make it a
You
snow?
can't, you can't make it virtual because no teachers are going to be
No,
online that day.
I meant virtual as in, not that kind of virtual, I'm sorry, but basically just
Old school snow day.
Yeah.
I think what we're gonna end up doing, Sean, is as far as I'm concerned, I would hope we would count hours.
Right.
And it's not even gonna be basically made up. But to your point, Dr. Cochran, I agree that the TTA and TSSU need to be involved in the discussions on this. However, I strongly feel that they're not going to be upset that we're providing a vaccination for all the employees and making sure that everybody is taken care of and is safe. So do you want me to make that motion, Kim, to make the 26th a no school day?
Yes, I think that's the motion, because the contractual or the discussion with TTA can happen without the board coming into play.
Can I just make a point of order?
Yeah, well,
sure.
Sorry, just this won't impact the motion anyway, but that second date, when we talk about that will change depending on which brand of the vaccine you get. Moderna is 4 weeks, Pfizer's 3. So just keep that in mind.
So Kelly, if I may,
Please.
I did talk about that with the health coordinator, and she said that, it was in her professional opinion, with what she's seen with all of these that she's been setting up, is that date is good to go with either one. So either for Moderna or Pfizer.
Okay.
She's saying that 23rd works for either one. The only thing that's going to change this is if they supply us with Johnson & Johnson on that first date.
Okay.
But I did ask that question, and it was told to me that it didn't matter.
Perfect. Thanks.
I think Exeter is doing the same thing. I think Exeter's exactly 4 weeks apart because they're doing theirs tomorrow. And then again, April 13th. So it seems to be running on the same timetable as Timberlane's. That's why I wasn't kind of surprised about the full week, but I get what you're saying, Kelly. And if it's Johnson & Johnson, I want in. So I'll make a motion to call March 26th a day off.
And before you finish your motion, and to also authorize a second day off for students should it be needed. That way we don't have to revisit this.
All right, I'm making a motion to authorize March 26th as a day off for students and teachers, correct?
No.
No, we're not making,
Okay.
that's not our job
Let
here.
me try it again. I'm making a motion to authorize March 26th as a day off for all students and making a provision for a future date, one day in April, should it be needed.
That's a good motion, Sheila.
You like that?
Somebody want to
Okay.
second
It only
that?
took me 12
I'll
times.
second it.
Okay, Kelly seconds. All right, Kat, can you take a vote on that motion, please?
As soon as I find my unmute button. Yep. Ms. Bose,
I enthusiastically affirm that. Yes.
Mr. Boyle,
Yes.
Dr. Farah,
Yes.
Mr. Finnegan,
Yes.
Ms. Gentile,
Yes.
Mrs. Kishka,
Yes.
Ms. Lowe's,
Absolutely, yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mrs. Savage.
Yes, and I didn't get a chance to hop in, but I just want to say that it's my hope, as Sheila was saying, that this is counting hours so that this is not a day that we're looking at to make up. And I clearly would hope that Dr. Cochran will present it that way to our staff in union so that
Absolutely.
we're still keeping that end date as it is on the current calendar. I don't want people out there thinking we're adding onto the calendar for our kids as a result, so.
And also, again, thank you very much for setting this up. It was one of my little pet things, so thank you.
Yay, Captain. Thank you.
Good job. Thank you.
Okay, so we're all set with that, right? Sorry, I was trying to figure out what I'm doing next. All right, the next item on the agenda is end of year events. And we're looking for action here. Who is going to speak to this? Is this Mr. Woodworth? Looks like, because you joined us. You're muted.
You're muted.
Mr. Woodworth. I lost him. You're still muted. You're still muted. There you go.
How are we doing? In doing this, I have lost my screen, so give me a second here.
We could have somebody pop this up. It's in the agenda packet.
No, you can do that. What I'm looking at here is a couple of changes. We had Project Hope postponed, and that's on the calendar that we have in front of you. We do have a plan to have students modeling on a date that has been chosen, but I don't have the new date. It will probably be in April.
April 11th on. It's on for Sunday, April 11th at approximately 4 p.m.
There you go. And while a lot of the work will be virtual, there will be an event that does have a live a portion to it. Skipping down below to some of the senior events of note, we can look at the prom, which we're going to be holding in tents on the football field. It will be it's a group that is working on that right now. The prom will be held in 2 40 by 100 foot tents to make a total area of 80 by 100 feet. They'll have high top tables scattered throughout and chairs around the inside perimeter of the tent for seating. We'll have food from food trucks that are being served. We've ordered some nice portable toilets with sinks in them. We're still in the planning stages, but we're getting a lot of student input, some decisions still to be made regarding guests, but we're well on our way to creating a very nice event for the seniors. Senior breakfast will be held as usual. Week before we graduate, we'll have a breakfast. Will be more of a grab and go breakfast than what we've had in the past, but they'll pick up their yearbooks. They'll have a cap and gown pickup in the gym. They'll have some speeches and it will be a nice time. We have our academic dinner, our athletic recognition night, our scholarship night. All of these things will be held under the tent that we're having put up on the campus. So those events are going to be, similar to what we've had in the past, but in a different setting just for safety. Our graduation practices will continue like we have in the past. We'll start in the gym, be able to go down to the field below as needed to be ready for a situation similar to last year's graduation, though we're still working on how many guests we can have for every student. We might have the advantage of having less of a need for 6 foot distancing outside. We might be also able to create 3 and 4 people squares for families to be able to have, instead of just perhaps mom and dad, a brother, a sister, a grandma, or somebody else come. We can use the stands. We learned a lot from last year about how to do this in a way that was kind of elegant and different, but involving parents and kids. This year we'd like to expand that to the degree that we can safely do it. So we're working on that as well. Graduation practices will be a full walkthrough on the track. So we're looking forward to holding all the events that we normally do. And you can see on the calendar there are some other things going on. If you have questions about, I'll do my best to answer them.
Don, can I ask a question about Spirit Week?
Yes.
Because I know it's on for the week before April vacation, but as we just had the conversation about the vaccination, is student council and the students aware that that week might get shortened?
We got a plan today submitted from Jen Libby of the student council, and she had worked with the council to develop a 4-day schedule. So yeah, we would be missing one day, but we'd still have themes for each day. And some of the typical events like Mr. Timberlane, you know, things like that, that the kids want. So the kids have been involved in prioritizing that. And they made a proposal to us today, which looked good. So,
Great. I just wanted to make sure that they were aware that that week might get shortened, so.
well, the student council is, I'm not sure that all the students are,
Yeah.
but yes.
Okay, thank you.
Sheila?
John, I have two questions, actually. First of all, this is a great list. I appreciate all the work that went into it. It really, very well thought out. I'm very impressed with it, especially the prom. I'm thrilled that they can have something. But my questions are, I saw that we have an SAT day, which, yay, we got an SAT day. How is that going to work? Because usually they're all in the gym, correct?
Yeah, we're going to have to use the whole building.
Okay.
So we'll have nobody but the kids taking the test in the building. It'll have to become a remote day for others.
Okay, all right. And here I go. I lost it. I lost my other question. What happens if we have inclement weather? That was it. What happens on your scholarship night, your, you know, those special nights where we give out scholarships and awards and all that? What happens if,
Yeah,
God
I
forbid,
put it in order, you know, with the powers that be, that there'll be good weather.
right,
But should that not work out, these tents are huge, and we should still be able to accommodate the event.
It wouldn't
Unless
be a
there's tremendous
factor
wind
in-
or something. If there's something really difficult about it, we might have to do a remote type of virtual alternative in the worst case scenario, because we can't have the tents for too long. You know, they're
right.
fairly
Well, I'm
expensive.
asking because you're talking to a mother in 2012 that had an indoor graduation due to inclement weather and thunderstorms. So that's what brought it to my mind, is that, oh God, what happens if there's a huge thunderstorm and it's a problem? What would be the contingency? That was what I was worried
We
about.
can work on just keep pushing it back a day and alternative dates.
Okay.
And that's something that we have not spent a lot of time on, but it's a great point.
Yeah, just something I thought I'd mentioned, only because been there, done that with Casey in 2012, and it was a good time. So all those people in the gym, it just was a good time.
It was cozy, I know.
It was cozy, yeah, it was. So I just thought I'd mention it, but really it's fantastic, and I'm glad that they have the opportunity to get, it looks like, all of their events in. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you need, I don't think we need to take a formal action to approve this, frankly.
Do we?
I think we're good to go. Okay, let's move on. The next item on the agenda is renominations and staffing. There are two items in the packet under this 7E, renominations, final copy, and then it says secondary staffing accommodations. Let's go to the renomination list. Initially, for new board members, this is a list required that we renominate teachers no later than April 15th of the upcoming year. So this is a pretty lengthy list. We don't typically go through this line by line, but certainly board members, we're looking to make a motion to renominate off of the proposed list for professional staffing. So I'm seeking a motion on that. Barbara?
Can I ask a question before we start the motion? I'm sorry.
Sure, go ahead.
I'm just wondering about the abbreviations on it. So I understand continuing contract. What is TO, continuing contract?
Dr.
To
Cochran?
continue.
Go ahead. Sandy?
To continuing contract means that, so staff, when they have been in the district, or any district for that matter, under 5 years, they are on an annual contract. Once they have completed 5 years within a district, they move on to what is considered continuing contract, and they become what is known as experienced educators. And they have different rights under the CBA. So for lack of a better term, that's essentially the difference. So,
sure, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, so just, I was just going to explain to the new ones, the thing that threw me for a loop the first time is I thought that the non-renewals, that they're just basically all the 324 teachers that are in this document are going to get a contract. That's what we're saying. We approve all of these guys for next year.
So Barbara, you gonna make that motion?
Yeah, sure. I make the motion that we renominate all the people in that document.
I'll second it.
Okay, any discussion? Kat, could you take a roll
Wait,
call
I'm sorry,
vote?
now I'm confused. So what does
sorry.
non-continuing mean if that's not, if we're approving them all? I'm sorry.
Under
Yeah.
5.
Go ahead, Sandy.
Yeah, so it's
Oh, wait,
under
Dr.
5 years.
Cochran
So
wants-
yeah, Dr. Cochran, go ahead and jump in.
So under RSA 189.14, no, 13, an employee of the school district who has a certification through the NHDOE has a contract status. In order to become a continuing contract and have due process rights in terms of being terminated, you have to have 5 years of service within the same school district. Once you do that, you're now a continuing contract teacher, which guarantees that you can appeal a decision or have a hearing and so on. If you move to another district and you already have continuing contract in one district, in the next district, you only need 3 consecutive years in order to become continuing contract again. But if you went somewhere after 4 years, you would still have to go back and get your 5 consecutive years with one district to obtain continuing contract.
Thank you.
Clear as mud.
Kelly, do you understand the 3 different categories that you were seeing?
Now I do, yes.
Okay.
I thought this was a very different process when I read this document in the first place, but now I'm clear. Thank you so much.
Okay, so we had a motion. Did we have a second?
Yes.
Did we? What?
Kristen,
second.
Oh, Kristen second. Okay. So if there's no further discussion, Kat, could you take the roll call, please?
Ms. Bose,
I'm going to abstain. Thanks.
Mr. Boyle,
Yes.
Dr. Farah,
Yes.
Mr. Finnegan,
Yes.
Ms. Gentile,
Yes.
Mrs. Kishka,
Yes.
Ms. Lowe's,
yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mrs. Savage.
I'm actually abstaining only because I have a question and this isn't the proper venue to ask it. So I'm going to abstain.
Okay. The next item in this on staffing, there's an executive summary, and we are looking to restructure at the secondary level. As you know, we have had this discussion publicly that we have eliminated 3 academic deans. And so the administration is proposing that in light of that we create 2 6 through 12 coordinator positions to fill that void. And the rationale is provided in this document. So I'm looking for a motion to approve the creation of 2 6 through 12 coordinator positions to in curriculum and instruction to provide for alignment across the middle and high schools. Sheila?
No motion. I'd like to bring this into non-public. I have questions and want to bring it into non-public.
Well, does the question regard to the organizational structure or certain personnel? I mean, if it's just a discussion about the structure, it should be in public.
Okay. That's how you want to go with it. I don't agree with this. We had conversations months ago, or probably 3 or 4 meetings ago, in regards to adding an assistant principal on. And I don't see that. What I see is basically I'm going to say this the best way I can. What I see is a continuation of deans with new names. That's what I see here. So we might have gotten rid of the deans, quote unquote deans, but it looks to me like this is the exact same job. We've split up the jobs between the subjects between humanities and STEM, but now we're calling them coordinators. So I believe there was a conversation about adding another assistant principal into the high school. I don't see that happening. I thought we really needed that position as an AP, was my take on it when we had the conversation. And now I'm seeing 2 coordinators that are basically dean positions renamed.
Dr. Cochran?
Yeah, the original conversation, I think Sheila's correct, but we actually talked about 2 things. One was 1 AP and 1 curriculum instruction position. And the other one was basically 2 coordinators, 6 through 12 position, to try and work on alignment. And at that point in time, I had said that I had favored the 1 AP and 1 curriculum position. After lengthy meetings with Sandy and Mark about the work ahead, where we are with things, I asked them to put together what they proposed, and they proposed that for the next 2 and potentially 3 years, the most necessary work was the 6 through 12 alignment, and especially some work at 6 through 8. And so at their request, I moved this option forward, although it was not the option that I had favored when we had the original conversation.
Barbara?
So can you differentiate the job description for the new positions versus the deans, the evaluation, teaching classes?
There isn't none.
It's the same?
Basically, it's the same,
Randy, you?
unless somebody wants to.
Yeah, so the overview that you're looking at, you can see, we've had different numbers of deans over the past 6, 7 years. We started with 3, we went to 7, we backed down to 5, we went to 3. We've had 3 for the past 3 years. The deans have been instrumental in leading our work in curriculum and instruction. And the summary that you see in front of you, we did our best to trace and our progression of where we started with really extensive work in curriculum, which was in the early stages, early on when we had 7 deans. And then when we bumped down to 5, those deans absorbed more work departmentally. Then we narrowed it down to 3. We are still in what we consider stage 2 of our curriculum work, which is really connected to the development of assessments tied to the curriculum and competencies. We are rolling out a new hybrid report card at the middle and high schools. You're right, Sheila, the deans had a huge role in that. The loss of those deans and the function that they perform with regard to curriculum instruction and supporting teachers is essential. So many of the functions of those positions, the deans, you do see in the description of the curriculum coordinators, because those are essential functions regarding the work that we have going on in our department, all departments really, 612, and in our schools. That being said, this is still a reduction from 3 to 2. We currently have a dean of English and world language. We have a dean that works with social studies, that works with ICT, other departments. This is a merger. So those people would be taking on larger groups in terms of evaluation. Additionally, as we see a reduction with the deans, those individuals evaluate. So when we are talking about our assistant principals and our principal, for them to absorb evaluation, supervision, they don't necessarily have the same opportunities to visit our meetings at the middle school, professional learning committees or PLCs, to attend and run department meetings. They're spread very thin with regard to lunch duty, hall duty, being present, responding to behavioral concerns, disciplinary issues, meeting with teachers. So we're trying to provide support where it is needed based on a really in-depth analysis of the work that we have going on, the impact that COVID has had on halting that work, where we need to be moving forward in terms of ongoing school improvement around academics, which I think is, a primary goal and mission of our district. So what you see, this is a very honest assessment of where we feel we have the greater need. So I'll leave it at that.
Kelly?
Is someone able to provide some historical context for me about why the dean's position was removed?
Well, let me try to provide a little bit of a historical context. I don't even know how many years ago this was. There used to be and Sandy, correct me if I'm wrong, because I may not be exactly right. The structure used to have principals, and then below that there were department coordinators, but you still also had higher level curriculum coordinators, correct?
We've gone through a variety of variations of what those department heads look like. At one time, when I first started at Timberlane back in the mid-2000s, we had department heads that were also semi-administrative positions. They evaluated teachers. Those department heads transitioned to department coordinators. They were non-evaluative. They were members of TTA. So essentially teachers who took on some administrative functions, including scheduling, budgeting, leading department meetings, addressing various needs that teachers might have, sub-plans, providing coverage, things of that nature. They did not evaluate teachers, nor did they perform any sort of work with regard to leading curriculum work in PLCs and things of that nature, or professional development. That function then transitioned to what we call teacher leaders. Essentially, they were the same function, they're slightly different title. But we had teacher leaders. You can see in the document we provided. I have to go back to see when they were eliminated, but it was the year when the deans increased. And again, the essential function is that the deans are evaluators, they are administrative, they have that role with regard to supervision and evaluation. And in addition, they have been involved in depth with regard to a lot of our professional development. They themselves have gone through a lot of training with regard to our curriculum work, and they've really led that work with our teachers in small groups, which has helped us to really move forward with regard to our work in curriculum instruction and assessment. So
That's helpful. And if this proposal does not pass, who would be responsible for evaluating and supervising teachers?
we would absorb the numbers of staff that are currently evaluated by the deans in our administrative structure with our principals and APs who also do evaluate. I don't want to imply that they do not evaluate, they do.
But they would be
just
responsible
take
for all
on,
of
it would be, redistributed. So they would just have larger numbers of teachers that they would evaluate.
Thank you.
Dr. Cochran?
The prior model of hiring at the principal and assistant principal level has not really focused as much as I think it should have, and in terms of the principal and assistant principal as educational and instructional leaders. And so we've had people who've come into those roles who are more administrative in nature. And one of the things that I have spoken about consistently since I've started in this position is the need to make our building principals and to some extent assistant principals, educational leaders, instructional leaders. And the part of that will occur through PD and training and work with them and mentoring. The other part will happen with turnover and hiring. I don't think we're at a place as of today where we have the amount of capacity in there to do the job the way I would like to see it done. So at this point in time, we need some curriculum capacity while we're working on both attracting new hires and developing internally the instructional and educational expertise that we think we need. We do have some excellent people in that capacity in principal and assistant principal positions, but it's not been a priority K through 12. And I think it's going to take us a little bit longer to get there in those positions and to wean ourselves away from the dean type of positions.
Okay, Sheila, then Brian.
Who does the teacher evaluations at the elementary schools?
The principals and assistant principals, which assistant principals are also considered curriculum coordinators, they do. However, their staff are much smaller comparatively. So if you have a staff of 29 or 35 with 2 people, that is approximately the load that our secondary administrators have themselves with our current structure. So if we narrow down the numbers that we have and they absorb more, they're looking at taking on larger numbers in terms of evaluation. So.
Okay, so in the middle school, who evaluates the teachers?
The assistant principals and the principal.
Okay, so the only place that we're doing this is at the high school. So basically in the other 2 realms, it's the assistant principals, the APs and the principals' responsibility, let's say, to evaluate their teachers. Am I correct in saying that?
No, that's accurate. That's accurate.
Okay, but in the high school, that's not part of their responsibilities for the APs and the principal.
No, that's incorrect. Our principals and assistant principals currently evaluate in addition to our 3 deans. So we've distributed, because we have larger numbers of staff. And again, the middle school does have a very large staff. So absolutely, you're right there, Sheila. That being said, at the high school, we do have larger numbers. And so we distribute amongst our assistant principals, and our principal is also an evaluator at the high school.
Okay, so the assistant principals and the principals will also be doing evaluations on these teachers, as
Yes.
well as
Yes.
these 2 coordinators.
Yes.
Okay, so.
Which is not a change from our current model. They currently evaluate all of them.
Okay.
Brian, did you have something?
I do. I have a question or a clarification here for Dr. Cochran. So this org chart we're looking at, is this the same amount of slots? You're just changing the names, the duties of 1 or 2 of these that we talked about 2 weeks ago?
You're reducing from 3 to 2 here.
So we ripped 3 dean's positions and.
But I'm talking 2 weeks ago, when we had this conversation. I'm trying to understand again where we were a couple of weeks ago and what the difference. I think you mentioned earlier. I'm just trying to clarify this.
In terms of the conversation that I alluded to earlier, that we talked about either assistant principal and dean.
Yes.
And one of each. As I said, the conversations started with Ms. Allaire and Mr. Peterson about the history, the loss, where we are across a range of functions. And they put forward an argument that said that this is the function that we need, at least for the next 2 years, to get us where we need to be instructionally. And they made what I thought was a compelling argument, and that's why I brought it forward.
Okay, but that's the same amount of bodies though.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's 1 fewer than last year.
No, I understand that from last year. I'm talking about from 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Yes. It is a change.
Okay.
So Sandy, are we at the high school, we're looking at a principal, an associate, and 2 assistant principals for next year?
Yes.
That's our current model. I don't believe we're recommending any changes to that structure. But I'll defer to Dr. Cochran. This proposal is really just with reference to the 2 coordinator positions.
All right, so we're not adding any principals to the high school, which I thought at one time we talked about, but I guess that's a no. So, and we're going from 3 deans down to 2. And this is what the administration is recommending. I'd like to either move this forward. I'm looking for a motion from somebody as to whether or not we're going to go this way.
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
I'll second.
To approve the plan that's put before us to basically, to add these 2 positions. I'm trying to
Okay,
find.
to create 2 6 through 12 coordinator positions.
I was looking for the title. I'm trying to scroll through here, so thank you. Yes, to add the 2 6 through.
And Barbara, are you seconding that?
I did, yes.
Further discussion? Kat, can you take a vote on that?
Ms. Bose,
Yes.
Mr. Boyle,
Yes.
Dr. Farah,
Yes.
Mr. Finnegan,
Yes.
Ms. Gentile,
Yes.
Mrs. Kishka,
Yes.
Ms. Lowe's,
No.
Mr. O'Neill.
I'm going to be voting yes, but I do agree with Sheila's statement that these are just basically the same roles with new names on it. So we really gone from 3 deans down to 2 deans. Let's be honest.
Mrs. Savage,
Yes.
Okay, moving on. Sorry, I lost my paper.
Quick comment.
Yes, go ahead.
I don't disagree with Ms. Lowe's or Mr. O'Neill.
Well, but the difference, though, correct me if I'm wrong, is that
The
these
difference.
6 through 12, as opposed to just the deans were in the high school only. Correct?
No, the deans were 6 through 12 also.
They were 6 through 12.
I'm sorry.
The functions are relatively similar. I just think we need 2 more years of to get us where we need to go as we attract and work with the principals and assistant principals.
Well, and in terms of bodies, you were going to have another body. That's what another assistant principal. So now
we're not.
No, we're not.
Now you're not. That's
Now we're
my
not.
point. Okay, but my point is in terms of overall administrators, that's your, I don't see this as a net 2. I see more as a net 1 that we talked about. You would have had another assistant principal.
No, you would add an assistant principal and a coordinator. You still would add 2. But one person would have been hired as an assistant principal. And that's the difference. What we've done here is we've just renamed. We've split up the other 3 or whatever the subjects were, and we've renamed them coordinators. That's the basis of it.
You have the same amount of administrators, Sheila, we had 2 weeks ago.
Less 1. Yes. Yes. Same amount. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not the amount that bothers me, Brian. It's the functions.
Gotcha.
That's the difference. It's the function of them. That's all.
Here's my thought process here. I want to give the new superintendent every opportunity we have as a board here as we go into this year. And Kelly, this is what's gone on. As you heard, nice job there from Sandy. There's been a history of how this whole thing has developed over the last 10 years. So let's see how it goes this year.
Okay, and let's move on. The next action item is SAU 106 staffing in your packets. And Sandy or somebody, could you pop this up for us on the screen so people could see it? We still have a pretty large audience. So for public and for new people, as you know, we are withdrawing from SAU 55. As such, we need to develop and start to staff out our own SAU, which is now SAU 106. Can you make it a little bigger? I can't see that. That's a little better. So the superintendent is proposing the following organizational structure for SAU 106 for next year. I don't know if you want to speak to this a little, Dr. Cochran, board members, or if you want to ask questions on this, but why don't go ahead.
It's a very slight change from the 2 or 3 different versions that we discussed last time. One of the more vociferously discussed aspects was the role, number and role of assistant superintendents. And going back and looking at the function, this is very close to a couple of different ones of these. We have had more clarity come around where we are in terms of special education. And so rather than look at an assistant superintendent for special education we'll be posting shortly. I already have a draft posting that I sent to HR Director Loisel today to fill the Director of Special Education position, an Executive Director of Curriculum Instruction and Assessment, and then everything else runs fairly straightforward in terms of the other lines. Those really don't. The HR function and the business office function really don't change. The Executive Director has 3 reports: the Director of Secondary Education, Director of Elementary Education, and the Technology Director. The two director positions underneath the Executive Director are revised versions of the curriculum coordinator positions that Mr. Peterson and Ms. Kanotis are in now. So it's basically a renaming with additional responsibilities in those 2 positions. And likewise with the Executive Director of Curriculum Instruction and Assessment, more clarity, a little bit more description of what will be in those roles.
Okay, are there any questions? And if you could stop sharing, because I can't now see everybody, please. So I can't tell if not, I will entertain them. Oh, Kelly, go ahead.
I apologize if this has been discussed in a previous meeting, but could you give me like a quick overview of why under special ed, the secondary position is a director and the other 2 are coordinators?
I can give you an explanation. It's not one I'm all that happy about, in the sense that when the 3 positions were posted, one was posted with an old title of director, and it was Director of Secondary Education. And that was what we posted for. That was what was filled back about the start of the year. And the other 2 are coordinator positions. In reality, all 3 of them have the appropriate certification. And the secondary director does have some additional responsibilities, but by and large, the functions are very similar. One does elementary, one does middle school, one does high school.
And I assume the salaries are slightly different based on the titles?
If there's a difference, it's very minimal for the director.
Okay, any other questions? Is there a motion? The motion would be to accept the proposed structure for the SAU 106 staffing for the upcoming year.
So moved.
Barbara makes a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Sean seconds. Can we take a roll call, please?
I have a question there, Kim, before you
Yep.
do that. Under the, on the bottom there, receptionist transportation, is that one position or just, is that a function?
That is, we still don't have clarity around what we're going to be doing with transportation services. And
Okay.
so everything else is pretty much set. We've had conversations within the SAU about the need for a transportation person. We do not believe that it's a full-time position, and so trying to figure out what we might combine it with in order to have to make it work in either the business office function or the HR function. So those positions at the bottom are really not determined at this point in time, but we expect that to be the total position count and the type of position. But this, putting it this way, gives us a little bit of flexibility about how we want to do it.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? If not, we'll do a roll call. Kat?
Ms. Bose,
Yes.
Mr. Boyle,
Yes.
Dr. Farah,
Yes.
Mr. Finnegan,
Yes.
Ms. Gentile,
Yes.
Mrs. Kishka,
Yes, I am jazzed. We're going to have our own SAU.
Ms. Lowe's,
I'm going to abstain.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mrs. Savage.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Moving on, the next item on the agenda is summer learning policy. It's in your packet. We would like to, curriculum committee, which, is anybody here on curriculum? Or did we lose both those people? We
Lost them
them.
both.
We lost them both. Curriculum committee, Sandy, you can, I think I can speak to it, but correct me if I'm wrong. Is recommending that we waive policy IHCA, which is the summer learning policy, that states that students will be expected to complete required summer work. Given COVID and the stresses on students and parents and everyone else, the board, I'm looking for a motion to waive that policy for this summer. Obviously, students that are AP students will probably still have homework that will be a requirement of their course, but this would be for all other students.
I'm going to make that motion that we waive it, because if I don't, Jen Silva, it's her last legacy of leaving this board, asked me to waive this policy. So I will, as much as I don't always agree with her, I will make the motion to waive this policy.
Okay. Is there a second? Barbara
I'll second.
seconds. Oh, Amy seconds. Okay, Amy seconds. And
Oh,
I am
so
a
Amy,
proponent.
I was trying to find my unmute.
I am a proponent of summer homework, but I do think that it should be waived for this summer. I know students are going through a lot. Any other discussion on that? If not, Kat, can you take a roll call vote on that, please?
Ms. Bose,
Yes.
Mr. Boyle,
Yes.
Dr. Farah,
Yes.
Mr. Finnegan,
Yes.
Ms. Gentile,
Yes.
Mrs. Kishka,
Yes.
Ms. Lowe's,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
No.
Mrs. Savage,
Yes, and my senior is going to be so upset with me that we're doing this now that he's graduating, because he says all the good stuff happens the year he's no longer involved with anything. So, but yes.
Okay, great. Moving on to the administrator's report, there are 3 items in your packet. So I don't know if Dr. Cochran or who wants to speak. The first one is on a memo for budget transfer. We're looking to transfer funds around because of retirements and so on.
Probably Mr. Dowd.
Okay,
And more
Mr.
than-
Dowd?
Yeah, I'm more than happy to speak to that. We have a request for 3 budget transfers, which are listed on the document, on the memorandum, and they exceed bid policy. So a copy of that policy has been included in your package. And you can see that we're looking to transfer some funding from a position that is vacant to fund some additional positions for coverage. One is for coverage during the withdrawal period for the CFO-BA. The other is for coverage for overlap and cross-training due to retirement for a payroll coordinator, and coverage for overlap and cross-training due to retirement for HR director. So the total of the 3, in fact, 2 of them are not over the $25,000 mark, but the total of the 3 are. So we're requesting your approval of that transfer.
Okay, you can stop
That
sharing,
those budget
please.
transfers in the amounts and accounts specified in this CFO BA's memo dated March 18th, 2021. Accept.
Nice, Barb. Thank you.
Is there
It
a
helps when
second?
you just write it out.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? As part of the withdrawal committee's report, when we put that together, we anticipated of about $100,000 in costs for the withdrawal. That was not put into, the board put it into the budget, I think, and the budget committee took it out, as I
Yep.
recall. So
That's right.
we are needing to move money from other areas for this.
So thank you for finding the money.
Kat, can you take a roll call vote on that one?
Ms. Bose,
Yes.
Mr. Boyle,
Yes.
Dr. Farah,
Yes.
Mr. Finnegan,
Yes.
Ms. Gentile,
Yes.
Mrs. Kishka,
Yes.
Ms. Lowe's,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mrs. Savage. Mrs. Savage,
Yes.
thank you.
Okay, and then the next one, I think, Mr. Dowd, this is yours. You're looking for a motion on a special transportation contract extension?
Correct. Yes, we have a special transportation provider. This is not our major transportation contract. However, we would normally be going out to bid on this through RFP. The vendor is Durham School Services that we're using right now. It used to be Provider, and I had requested what their options would look like. For an extension, they've extended a 1-year extension with an increase of 3%. This is consistent with their ongoing annual increases. So there's really no change. It's just basically putting another year on the contract. I know that the last time we went to bid on this, the increases were quite dramatic, much beyond the 3%. And I don't know that they'd be able to honor that 3% in the event that we went for a bid or went through the RFP process. In this case, I think it's important for the district to consider as well that that this is a transition year. Obviously, there's some movement going on in the special ed department, and of course, in light of the district's withdrawal, not sure of the need of the transportation coordinator. For basically just continuing on with the contract for another year through Durham at 3% increase, which is consistent with what they've been increasing, might be a good option for the district this year, and I wanted to put that out there for consideration by the board. And I do apologize. This came in very, very late, but I did want to get in front of the board at least to y'all could take a look at it.
Okay, Barbara.
So 2 questions. This is just for a 1-year extension?
Correct.
And what is the amount that total?
It's 3%. I would have to, this transportation is not a dedicated service. We pay for, daily buses and those get split. So it's really not, it's not something.
Ballpark, 100,000, less than 100,000?
Yeah, I'll get the exact amount for you. Anyone else has any other questions? Let me just pull that up. Just a moment.
Sheila, go ahead.
No other questions, but can we put this on our list of contracts to update we're good for a year, but obviously we're gonna have to put this back out to bid at some point. And is it first student in the food service? Are we up for all of those? Okay, so I just wanna make a note that we need to get those going, I guess. Here we go again.
So just under 400,000 is maybe even less than that, 375 to 400,000, the total contract cost. And first student, I don't believe is going to be up next year. I believe it's going to be the year after that.
Okay.
So
thank you, Jeff.
Yep.
You're talking 3% of the 400,000.
Yeah, it's 3.
Right.
In fact, I think with the 3%, I don't even think we'd be at 400,000.
Right. So I'd like to make a motion to accept this extension of the Durham School Services contract for a year.
I'll second.
Sheila makes a motion, Barbara seconds. Kat, can you take a roll call, please?
Ms. Bose,
Yes.
Mr. Boyle,
Yes.
Dr. Farah,
Yes.
Mr. Finnegan,
Yes.
Ms. Gentile,
Yes.
Mrs. Kishka,
Yes.
Ms. Lowe's,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mrs. Savage,
Yes, sorry, I keep freezing again.
Okay. And then the last item in the agenda packet for the administrator's report is the updated calendar for 2020, 2021 that reflects the vaccination dates. Sandy, are we looking to take action on this yet or not?
I believe, Dr. Cochran, I want to confirm with him, but I believe that we plan to set up meetings with the TTA and TSSU to review this.
We discussed that earlier in the meeting.
Yeah, we already did a motion on this, Kim.
Okay, but we are not going to change. We're not going to take action on the calendar.
No, not tonight.
Not tonight. Okay, good. So, Dr. Cochran, did you have anything else for the administrator's report?
We have a nomination. And we have a relatively short non-public, but I would like to, in public session, nominate our new HR director. And
Okay.
the nominated individual is Dana O'Gara, currently HR director of the Nashua School District. And do you need a salary?
We have
no, it's in the packet.
Yeah, okay.
So looking for a motion to accept the nomination of Dana O'Gara as
So moved.
Sheila makes
I'm
a
sorry.
motion.
Second.
As our new HR director.
Yeah,
As
Sean
of next year.
seconds. Could we take a roll call vote on that, please?
Ms. Bose,
Yes.
Mr. Boyle,
Yes.
Dr. Farah,
Yes.
Mr. Finnegan,
Yes.
Ms. Gentile,
Yes.
Mrs. Kishka,
Yes.
Ms. Lowe's,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mrs. Savage.
Yes.
Thank you. And then next we have 3 retirements. Susan Rasico, Director of Special Education, is retiring. We also have Gay Daigle, middle school special education teacher, and Michael Smith, high school English teacher.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the retirements of Susan Rasico, Gay Daigle, and Michael Smith with gratitude and thank you for your service.
Second.
Barbara seconds. Kat, could you take a roll call on that, please?
Ms. Bose,
Yes.
Mr. Boyle,
Yes.
Dr. Farah,
Yes.
Mr. Finnegan,
Yes.
Ms. Gentile,
Yes.
Mrs. Kishka,
Yes.
Ms. Lowe's,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mrs. Savage.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And then lastly, we have 2 resignations, Bridget Sheehan, Timberlane Regional Middle School nurse, and Amanda Ansel, middle school English teacher. Looking for a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the resignation of Amanda Ansel. And I believe the last meeting we had already accepted the resignation of Bridget Sheehan.
Okay. Thank you, Sheila.
Because I believe I made that motion.
You're right.
Okay.
I remember typing those minutes, so yes.
Yeah, okay. So, all right. Sandy?
I believe that this name is back in your packet because the resignation, the motion, I believe, was last meeting was referenced for at the end of the school year, and I believe that the resignation is effective sooner than that.
March 22nd.
Okay. So I'd like to accept the resignation of Bridget Sheehan and the resignation of Amanda Ansel.
Okay, so Barbara seconds.
I second, but I also, there's just a little bit of discussion. I mean, how, do we have somebody who can be the nurse at the middle school starting so soon? To replace her?
And Ms. Peterson, I believe we discussed this with Principal Kokler.
So I mean, at the middle school right now, we do have 2 nurses. The high school has 2 nurses, just due to the population of those buildings. It's prudent to have that many medical staff available. I mean, we do have 2 nurses. We do have a float nurse, a sub nurse, if you will, that we can provide. We are actively looking to hire a replacement if need be. And so we are doing that work, and we feel as though we can make it work with, with what we have on staff and looking to hire a newer replacement.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Kat, can you take a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Bose,
Yes.
Mr. Boyle,
Yes.
Dr. Farah,
Yes.
Mr. Finnegan,
Yes.
Ms. Gentile,
Yes.
Mrs. Kishka,
Yes.
Ms. Lowe's,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mrs. Savage.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, there's just one thing I need to look at here before we move on from this. Board members, we need to go back to, hang on one second. Mr. Smith, if you look in your packet and read that resignation, Mr. Smith is looking for and
Retirement
requesting to be get
exemption?
request the retirement incentive based on extenuating circumstances.
Did I not see that?
It's in the packet. Kelly?
Sorry to be the new board member again, but could somebody give me a brief summary of what the retirement incentive is? Or like what he's asking for and why that's a unique thing?
Well, the retirement incentive allows for retiring teachers within the TTA current collective bargaining agreement to, based on the number of years of service, collect up to 45% of their annual pay. I think that's the number. I know there's a number there. Somebody correct me on the staff if I'm wrong. So, but that has to be requested. You need to put in your retirement by January 1. Board members, if you don't want to consider this publicly and you want the information that we do not have, well, you can move it. When we move into a non-public, we'll have this discussion. Sheila?
Thank you. That's exactly what I wanted.
I
We
figured.
don't have the information.
Okay, so Mrs. Lewisell, the board members are going to want an unredacted letter here when we move into non-public on that. So we will defer that till later. And
we can come out
yes.
and make a motion.
Yeah,
if
we
we
can
need
come
to.
out and make a motion in public. Okay,
Thank you.
so Dr. Cochran, anything else on administrator or personnel reports?
No, but we do have two things for non-public.
Yeah, we have a couple things for non-public. So are there any reports of the school board, any committee reports? I don't think so, because I don't think we met because of the election. All right, speaking of that, I've already discussed this. Board members, you're going to be, an email will go out requesting what you would like for committees. If you could fill that out, send it back to me, then I can populate it. Amy, I hear that you are looking to be on the policy committee.
Oh, I just can't wait.
I would like, well, the reason I'm just calling you out is, Sandy, wouldn't the policy committee meet before the next meeting?
I believe so.
Yes.
I do not serve on policy, but they
Oh.
typically meet prior to board meetings.
And you didn't meet, so they should be meeting. So
The
I'd
first
like
one of the
to,
month.
if Amy's willing to serve on policy and then have another board member, does anybody want to volunteer so that they can meet next time? If we don't appoint now, we're not going to have anybody to meet. They won't be able to meet. Sheila?
I nominate John O'Neill, seeing that he was the person that backed them up.
Is this where I'm supposed to take the step backwards?
Yep, this is where you're supposed to do this.
Yeah.
Thanks for stepping up, John. Well, you don't have to do it permanently, but I'd like to at least get 2 people so that next meeting they can have it.
Yeah.
Well,
no,
he's
I
the only
agree.
one with
I'll
any-
step up for it.
Well, Sean, you're the only one with any experience in it, other than the 2 people who left. Sorry, love, 3 under the bus.
And your point being?
Point being, I just two-handedly threw you under the bus.
Okay, so if there's nothing else, then we are going to want to move into a non-public meeting. Oh, shoot.
5-minute break.
Yeah, but we need to make a motion to move into non-public. What is it? 91 RSA 91A colon C.
3C, I believe, for personnel.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to move into,
I'll make that motion to move into non-public under what Brian just said, 3C. C3, whatever it was. And please thank.
no,
Mrs.
it's under
Belcher.
91A colon 2. I think it's 91A colon 2, section 3. Hang on 1 second.
91A3 paragraph 2.
Thank you.
Kim?
Yes.
Can we make an action item, and maybe Kat can do this because I know she already has a list to reach out to Mrs. Belcher, but can we have like that list that she used to give us on our folders put in
It's in the belt, it's in the agenda packet.
Yeah,
It
Yeah.
is? I didn't see it in the agenda
Yes.
packet.
it is.
Thought it was, it's like the second or third thing down in the agenda packet.
She's already on top of it.
I
I
can send it to you so that you have it.
Yeah.
In fact, I was just gonna thank her for putting it in the agenda packet.
Well,
Yeah,
she's
yeah, I see it now.
participating, so.
Oh, I see it. Now I'm gonna
So-
print it. I'm gonna print it now. So I
Thank you,
have it.
Mrs. Belcher, for putting it in our agenda packet.
Thank you. Thanks, Kat, for getting it done so quick for me.
Okay. All right. So, Kat, can you take a roll call vote? We will come out of this meeting and come into a public session, but I don't know is,
Who's the
Yes,
second? I have
We
Sheila.
maybe have to make a motion.
I have
what?
Sheila as the first, but I have no second.
Who's seconding the motion for the non-public?
Good.
Mr. Finnegan. It's the Sandown crew. Go ahead, Kat.
All right, Ms. Bose,
Yes.
Mr. Boyle,
Yes.
Dr. Farah.
Yes, before we leave, I want to say who's coming into the non-public, so I make sure that Dean knows. Go ahead.
Mr. Finnegan,
Yes.
Ms. Gentile,
Yes.
Mrs. Kishka,
Yes.
Bose,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mrs. Savage.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So we'll need all the board members, obviously, Dr. Cochran, Kat, we're gonna need you. We're gonna need Maria in the non-public, Dean,
Yeah, Mark, Lucy, Sandy.
And
Mark,
Nancy.
Lucy, Sandy, and Nancy Lewisell needs to be in the non-public.
Okay, I'm adding them to the list right now. I have Dr. Cochran, Kat Lancaster, who else?
Maria,
Maria,
Sandy, Mark, and Lucy,
Nancy.
Mark
and Nancy.
Pedersen,
Excuse me?
Mark Pedersen,
Yes.
Lucy
All
Curtis,
right.
Lucy Canotis,
Yeah.
Nancy Lewisell.
I think you've already sent me a link, Dean.
Okay, this is for the non-public.
Right.
Okay, I will resend that link to you guys now. That's going out.
Okay.
And do we want to keep this webinar active for return to public?
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead. And let's take a 5-minute break because I need to have a phone call about this non-public before I go in.
So does that mean that the link that we got earlier today is not valid, Dean?
The link that I sent out to everybody on the distribution, that's the same one. That is valid.
Okay.
Okay.
Super.
I just don't think, I'm not sure if I had Mrs. Lewisell on that link.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Great. Thank
You
you.
can go into non-public. I will be right there. It only may take me a minute. I don't know.
Okay.
Let Steve have it.
Thank you. Ready to vote?
Yep, go ahead.
Ms. Bose,
Yes.
Mr. Boyle,
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry.
Right.
Dr. Farah is a yes. How about Mr. Boyle?
I'll go with a yes.
And
Yes.
Ms. Gentile,
Yes.
It's the witching hour.
Yes.
Ms. Lowe's,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mrs. Savage.
Yes.
Okay, now that that's done, I'd like to make a motion to approve the retirement and the retirement incentive for Mike Smith, teacher at the high school, and Catherine Nickerson, one of our food service employees. And that would be due to extenuating circumstances.
Thank you.
Second that motion.
Brian seconds. Kat, can you take a vote on that?
Ms. Bose,
Yes.
Mr. Boyle,
Yes.
Dr. Farah,
Yes.
Mr. Finnegan,
Yes.
Ms. Gentile,
Yes.
Mrs. Kishka,
Yes.
Ms. Lowe's,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mrs. Savage.
Yes.
All right. And I also like to make a motion to seal the second session of our non-public minutes.
Second.
Okay, can you take a vote on that?
Ms. Bose,
Yes.
Mr. Boyle,
Yes.
Dr. Farah,
Yes.
Mr. Finnegan,
Yes.
Ms. Gentile,
Yes.
Mrs. Kishka,
Yes.
Ms. Lowe's,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mrs. Savage.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
So made.
Second.
Good night.
Good night,
Good night,
everyone.
everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.